We're 2 months into our road trip around the UK in Helga, our 1989 motorhome. Our aim is to travel to the wildest places we can find, and I think the landscapes and wildlife we witness will completely surprise you. So far we've explored the southwest and Wales, and now it's time to visit the national parks in northern England. So we left Wales and made our way to the Peak District National Park. I guess it was a little ignorant of us, but we thought the Peak District would have peaks and some rocky hills at least, but it was very much farmland with some interesting rock formations. It actually got its name from an Anglo-Saxon tribe as opposed to mountain peaks. There were some interesting sights, but it wasn't our favourite national park, and we found it a bit busy in some areas. Maybe it's due to the fact that over 20 million people can access it within 1 hour drive. We still enjoyed our time there though, did plenty of hiking, and when the weather was a bit bad and rainy and windy, we relaxed in Helga. Then it was time to head north to the Yorkshire Dales National Park. We didn't have high expectations for this park. We kind of thought it would just be farmers' fields and a bit bleak, but we ended up loving it. We had no idea there'd be all these amazing waterfalls, and it was perfect as we had a heat wave when we visited. It was about 30 degrees every single day, and we couldn't wait to jump in the water. This was one of our favourite waterfalls that we came across. It looked like a miniature Niagara Falls, but there was one downside, which are all these tiny worms that I found on my feet. And this is the moment when Craig realised he was covered in them from sitting on the rocks. We decided our best option to get them off was to go right under the waterfall again and hope the fast flowing water would do the job. This was another really fun waterfall that we found, and it had a rope swing from the top. Craig was a lot braver than me and went for the plunge. But the water wasn't exactly clear, it was quite deep and brown, so I decided to give this one a miss, as the only way back out was to climb up this wall via a rope. I felt much more comfortable just relaxing in the shallows. We also spent a lot of our time doing hikes in the Dales, and we discovered they have pretty interesting styles here. Some of them were little gaps in the walls for the gate, and others were these giant steps. This was one of the pools we discovered on a hike, and it ended up having a dead mole inside of it, so Craig went back in to use a stick and get rid of the mole, but he ended up falling twice. We found this section of tiered pools though just further down the valley, which were perfect for swimming in. The roads felt lovely and wild as we drove over the hills, and we enjoyed camping in some pretty idyllic spots. The only downside were the midges during the evening. They were everywhere, so we had to make some net curtains for the van to keep them out. But almost every evening we were treated to an amazing sunset. The heat wave continued, and sometimes it felt too hot to hike, so we decided to just relax at the river and go swimming all day. And for our final adventure in the Yorkshire Dales, we hiked up this waterfall and found the most idyllic little pool to swim in. The final national park we're visiting in northern England is the Lake District, and we arrived on my birthday to pouring rain. Luckily it improved the next day, so we decided to go to our first lake and take Roland on a little trip. We managed to park right on the shore, so we had breakfast outside and then headed out on the glassy water. It was so lovely and calm, but big black clouds were soon approaching and it began raining. The following day we had a bit of a cloudy start for our hike, but it ended up being incredible weather in the afternoon with pure sunshine. So we decided to go for a second hike, which led us over this gigantic stile to this stunning lake. We both enjoyed a swim in the warm water before looking for a place where we could park Helga so we could have dinner with a view. And this is where we ended up. It was a pretty perfect spot. But it was a bit of a slanted spot, so we had a few challenges when we were cooking. Now that the weather's back on our side, we wanted to head up some bigger mountains, so we made our way up Helvellyn, which is the third highest in England. We did a loop trail which involved both of the ridgelines and a scramble up to the peak. The views from the summit were some of the best you can find in England. We found a perfect spot for a swim on the way back and decided we had enough energy to take Roland out on the lake. Our next mountain summit was Blencathra via Sharp Edge. This is a narrow ridgeline with some really fun scrambling along the way. It began to cloud over as soon as we reached the summit, but the views were still impressive up there. It's become a bit of a tradition to go for a swim after every hike, so this was today's dunk. And the following day we did end up hiking Scafell Pike, which is the highest mountain in England, but I didn't get any footage because we were in cloud the whole way. Our legs were feeling pretty tired after all the hiking, so the following day we just relaxed in our camper van with this incredible view. And then it was time for some more hiking up mountains. The scenery really impressed us in the Lake District, and it looked more like Scotland than England to us. We had some overcast weather, but it was lovely and calm, so we just took it easy in our camper van and parked up in this idyllic spot beside the lake. We were able to just open our door and head straight out for a swim, once we got past the minefield of rocks obviously. After exploring the Lake District, it was time for Helga's first MOT since we've owned her. We were pretty shocked that she passed with flying colours, and then we had to plan where we were heading to next, as we didn't expect this to happen so soon.
Morning, Lauren. Morning. What a lovely view have you got today? Bolly old Scotland!
Follow us in the next episode as we make the spontaneous decision to head up to the Shetland Islands.